The impoverished student I sponsor asked to borrow my clothes, so I gave her the ones my dog had worn, only because I was reborn, and in my past life, she had bound herself to a system, stealing my life by using my belongings. She became the top-ranked genius school belle, dated the school heartthrob, and became an internet sensation as a high-profile, attractive couple. Meanwhile, my grades plummeted. I struggled to even afford meals, and I faced discrimination for wearing dirty, smelly clothes. I was trying to defend myself, but she preempted me and viciously accused me of being an ungrateful wretch with delusions. In the end, on my way to report to the police, I was intercepted by people she had arranged in advance, dragged into a car, and brutally murdered. Given a second chance, when she came to me for help, I agreed without hesitation. This time, I'll let you fully enjoy the life I've arranged for you. During the morning break, Gu Sisi nervously approached my desk, her eyes red as she said, "Chinya, could I borrow your jacket? I accidentally tore my school uniform while running during exercise." She turned around, and sure enough, there was a large hole in the back, revealing her frayed undergarments. The surrounding classmates gasped, and one by one they began to speak. "Oh my, what would people think of a girl wearing such tattered clothes?" "Lu Chinya, quickly lend her your jacket, the goddess has spoken. Why aren't you agreeing right away? It would be so embarrassing if someone outside saw this." "Exactly, what are you just standing there for? Are you unwilling to lend it? Can't you even help out a classmate with such a small favor?" In the past, Gu Sisi was the most discriminated against and ignored person in the class, but ever since she bound me to the system, she quietly swapped our appearances. Now, she has become the delicate, goddess-like top student in our grade, with people even fighting to pay for her meals. Meanwhile, I'm stuck with an oily, sallow face covered in freckles, and no matter how hard I try, I can only linger at the bottom of the class rankings. What's even more bizarre is that everyone's memories have been altered. No one remembers that Gu Sisi and I switched looks. At the moment, I sneered as I watched these boys who were full of pity for Gu Sisi. "You all have your own jackets, so why don't you lend them to her? From now on, I'll leave this opportunity to show kindness to you. Sisi will surely be very grateful to you, too." As soon as these words were spoken, those boys immediately turned around and started rummaging through their desks for their jackets. Gu Sisi looked at these obviously unintelligent, slovenly, and overweight nerds, and every cell in her body was resisting. "No, I don't want this, take it all away." Her eyes blinked, and a layer of tears instantly welled up, as she looked at me pitifully and said, "Chinya, have I done something to make you dislike me? Please tell me, and no matter what it is, I will apologize." I have to say, a beauty in tears with a delicate voice is truly a sight that stirs compassion, making anyone want to protect her. Sure enough, the boys who turned back were convinced that I had bullied her and pushed me away forcefully. They rummaged through my desk and pulled out a knitted jacket with the LV logo, presenting it to Gu Sisi as if they had found a treasure. I slammed hard into the corner of the desk, and Gu Sisi triumphantly took it, but as she unfolded it, she felt something was off. "Chinya, I haven't seen you wear this before. Could it be that you just bought it and haven't worn it yet? This LV must be quite expensive too. I don't need to wear something this nice. I can just wear the one you have on." She frowned and stared at me. I got up from the ground and said slowly, "Sisi, this is what I wear every day, just under my school uniform. If you don't want it, just give it back to me." I pretended to take it back, and she quickly held it close to her chest, her eyes gleaming with an intense light. "Wearing it every day, that's really great. I will definitely cherish it properly. This is my dog's favorite piece of clothing to wear. It has been with me since childhood until now, and has long entered its old age. Since we are going to exchange fates, I thank you for giving it the chance to accompany me longer." 3. At noon, while I was getting food in the cafeteria, someone suddenly patted me on the shoulder from behind. "Finally meeting you in person." I turned around and found that it was the school heartthrob, Xia Xinshu, who often appeared as the school's spokesperson on camera. He was even more handsome in person than on screen, aloof yet dazzling. No wonder he had already passed the art entrance exams and been admitted to a prestigious film academy. The moment he saw me turn around, the delight in his eyes instantly turned into disappointment and disgust. "It's you." Before I could even process it, the young man took 2 steps back and quickly walked away. On the way, he ran into Gu Sisi head-on. Their eyes met, and a flicker of guilt crossed the girl's face as she instinctively tried to leave, but the boy had already excitedly stepped forward to block her path. "It's you. I watched the singing video you posted. It was really great. I've already followed you back. Don't you remember me?" Gu Sisi cleared her throat unnaturally and spoke in an affected manner. "Of course I remember, classmate Xia. It's a pleasure to meet you offline." Although Gu Sisi had already used the system to acquire an appearance resembling mine, she hadn't changed her voice yet, even though she spoke slowly and deliberately emphasized her pronunciation. A slight regional accent could still be detected upon careful listening. "The point is, How come I didn't know she could sing well? She's famously tone-deaf in the whole class. A faint shadow crossed Xiaoxinchu's eyes, but he still looked at Gu Sisi happily, his gaze bright and intense. I just got back to school today. I don't have many friends here. Would you be willing to spend some time with me during this period? The campus heartthrob, who had previously only existed in legends, had returned to school. Passing students couldn't help but slow down to sneak a glance. Hearing him say that now, I could barely hold my tray steady and couldn't help but start discussing. Oh my god, it's Xiaoxinshu. I've only seen such a handsome guy like him on TV. Who is this girl? She's really pretty too, but the main thing is how lucky she is to catch the school heartthrob's attention. I feel like they're going to end up together. When that happens, I'm going to be obsessed to death. Xiaoxinyu is also particularly wealthy. His dad runs a company, and his mom is an artist. He's practically the male lead in a novel. I'm so envious I could cry. I was also watching from the side. Gu Sisi glanced at me, then turned to Xiaoxinyu with a smile and said, "Of course, that's great." In the afternoon, the classroom was buzzing with excitement, not only because Xiaoxinyu's return was witnessed by many who were stunned by his breathtaking handsomeness, but also because this year's school anniversary celebration introduced a special dance segment featuring male and female partners. The students were so excited that they could hardly focus on their studies, secretly bringing their phones to search online for what to wear. "Chinya, you've always been the lead singer for our class in previous years. How about signing up for a solo performance this year?" My deskmate poked my arm. I was in the middle of writing out a problem and couldn't help but pause for a moment at their words. As the lead singer, standing on stage and feeling the cheers and applause from countless people, that feeling seemed like it had been a very, very long time ago. My deskmate noticed the disappointment in my eyes and comforted me warmly, saying, "It's okay, the acne and all that are probably just due to hormonal changes during puberty. It doesn't affect how much we enjoy your singing. Don't lose heart. Chinya, in my heart, you'll always be the little princess of the singing world." Just then, the class arts committee member was collecting program sign-ups. I stood up and walked over. "I'd like to sign up for a solo performance." The classroom, which had been noisy and chaotic, gradually quieted down because of my words. A boy said sarcastically, "Solo, do you know how many people watch our school's anniversary gala? It's even live-streamed. If you want to become famous, you should take a look in the mirror first." That's right, don't say you're from class 1 when you go out there. We can't afford the embarrassment. With all those acne scars and freckles on your face, it's like you've been disfigured. Wouldn't the audience be scared out of their pants just by looking at you? The entire classroom erupted in a huge roar of laughter. "What does it have to do with you? Signing up is my right," I said coldly as I turned and walked back. Suddenly, as if possessed, I looked up and locked eyes with Gu Sisi across several rows of seats. In her eyes was a flash of jealousy and resentment that she hadn't had time to conceal. Our eyes met, and Gu Sisi forced a faint smile at me, saying with a laugh, "Chinya, I wish you a successful performance." With a clatter, the pen in her hand fell straight to the ground, splattering ink everywhere. 5. As soon as class ended, Gu Sisi hurried over to borrow something from me. "Chinya, my only pen from last class broke. Can I borrow your pen?" I opened my pencil case and showed it to her. "But I only have one gel pen." "Then do you have any notebook I can use to work out the problems? Even a used one is fine." I also flatly refused. "No." Gu Sisi's expression darkened, and she clenched her fists. It seemed she was determined to borrow something from me today. Just then, a commotion erupted outside the classroom, and someone shouted, "Gu Sisi, come out quickly, someone's looking for you." Through the window, I saw Xiaoxinshu surrounded by a group of adoring girls. He wore a moon-white striped shirt today, which accentuated his slender neck. His dark hair fell over his forehead, adding a touch of scholarly charm. "Sisi." Xiaoxinyu stood in the sunlight, beaming as he curved his lips into a smile. In his hands, he held 2 bottles of chocolate milk. Gu Sisi's face flushed red. She lifted her chin, arranged her most beautiful smile, and walked out. At this party, a girl can accept an invitation from a boy. "May I ask if you already have someone in mind?" Xiaoxinshu asked, and Gu Sisi pursed her lips and shook her head. "Not yet." The boy's lips curled into an uncontrollable smile as he handed a bottle of milk to Gu Sisi. "Then, why not consider me?" 6. The students looked at these scenes with deep emotion. Gu Sisi has always been receiving financial aid. She couldn't even afford reference books. Now she has a chance to marry into a wealthy family and change her fate. That's right. Xiaoxinshu is definitely going to be a big star in the future, and his family is so rich, they couldn't spend all that money in several lifetimes. But Gu Sisi is also very impressive. She's been ranking first in the grade in recent exams, even though we haven't seen her studying much. Alas, for people like us, with average looks and average grades, our lives are just about making up the numbers in this world. Yet, as I listened to these words, the pen in my hand never stopped working on the problems. What does other people's lives have to do with me? All I know is that the most important task for a high school student is to study. Suddenly, Gu Cece's clear voice rang out. Qingya, come out for a moment. I looked up with a puzzled expression, but she had already rushed in and enthusiastically pulled me in front of Xia Xinshu. Xinshu, look, this is my best friend, Lu Qingya. I didn't want to look up at first, afraid that the things on my face up close might scare others. But Gu Cece forcibly grabbed me and made me lift my head. Sure enough, a trace of disdain flashed in Xia Xinyu's eyes. Qingya is so wonderful, she always shares her things with me, Gu Cece said enthusiastically, suddenly pointing at my clothes as if she had discovered a new world. Wow, Qingya, the bow brooch on your clothes is so pretty, can I borrow it to wear? I'll return it to you tomorrow. She said she was asking for my opinion. But in reality, she went straight to taking it. I immediately dodged. And the brooch accidentally scratched her finger. Although there was no bleeding, Gu Cece still screamed. 7. My finger, it's been pricked. Xia Xinyu immediately wanted to grab her finger to check the situation, but Gu Cece had already hidden her hand behind her back. She looked at me with reddened eyes, full of grievance. Qingya, why are you doing this? Aren't we best friends? If you didn't want to lend it, you could have just said so. Why did you have to do this? Sob, I really didn't expect this. The classmates gathered around upon seeing this, all convinced that I was deliberately targeting Gu Cece. Lu Qingya, why are you so selfish? What's the big deal about lending her your brooch? Do you have to make such a fuss about it? Exactly, it's just a shabby brooch. It's an honor that Cece even took a liking to it. What kind of class could you possibly show off by wearing it? It's bad enough that you're ugly, and we've all been too polite to say it, but now you turn out to be so vicious-hearted. Hurry up and apologize to Cece, give her the brooch as an apology, do it now, or don't force me to take action. I looked coldly at Gu Cece and said, stop pretending, who told you to lay hands on my things first? Do you think you can just take whatever you want? She was frightened by my stern expression and whimpered, trying to speak, but just at that moment, enough, Lu Qingya, right? Cece considers you a good friend and took the initiative to introduce you to me. Otherwise I wouldn't even glance at someone like you on the street. You've been sending me private messages harassing me, and I'm really fed up with it. Xia Xinshu's eyes were filled with malice, and his gaze toward me was undisguised loathing. Everyone around was shocked. And I also widened my eyes in disbelief. What? When did I ever send you private messages? What kind of private messages are you talking about? Stop pretending. I really regret setting up auto-replies on Weibo. It gave people like you an opportunity. Xia Xinshu couldn't help but feel nauseous at the memory. For the entire last year, you kept harassing me with different accounts every time I clicked on your profile. It was filled with your selfies. I'm seriously going to be sick. Have you ever looked in the mirror, and now you're targeting Cece out of jealousy? How can there be such a malicious girl like you in the world? Just as the class bell rang, Xia Xinshu shoved my shoulder hard and walked away, and I returned to my seat, feeling cold all over. Mocking and disdainful glances came from all around. Everyone was whispering, accusing me of a toad lusting after a swan's flesh. But I knew very well that I absolutely could not have sent that Weibo post to anyone else. Then there is only one truth. Before swapping faces with me, Gu Cece had been obsessively harassing Xia Xinshu. If I'm not mistaken, the reason Xia Xinshu thought she could sing was because she sent him my previous singing videos. That night, I studied very late and was the last one to return to the dormitory. While washing up, I suddenly felt an itch on my face. I looked up at the mirror and was surprised to find that the acne on my face had lightened considerably without me noticing. And my eyes seemed to have grown larger. My heart was pounding. Could this be the result of going against the system? I immediately thought of my little dog and sent a WeChat message to my mom to ask about Pippi's condition. I didn't expect my mom to still be awake. She excitedly told me, today, after eating in the morning, Pippi lay down to sleep and didn't wake up for a long time, which really scared us. But when we took him to the hospital tonight, the doctor miraculously discovered that Pippi is showing signs of reversing the aging process. As soon as we got home, Pippi was already able to play with his toys, bouncing around energetically on the stairs. 8. I was happy the entire evening. Just thinking about going home this weekend and being able to play with Pippi like we used to makes me toss and turn, unable to sleep. So much so that the next day when I arrived at the classroom, my face was beaming with joy. How ugly. You were already unattractive, and now with two swollen panda eyes, you look even worse. Before I could even put away my backpack, I heard someone behind me making sarcastic remarks. I couldn't be bothered to respond to them. I took a sip of strong coffee and started reciting my lessons. Before long, Gu Cece walked in with her backpack on. She seemed a bit tenor, and her fingers were dramatically wrapped in a layer of gauze. Although it was her hand that was injured, she walked with a noticeable limp. What surprised everyone even more was that Xia Xinshu had escorted her all the way to the classroom. Gu Sisi knew everyone was watching her, so she deliberately slowed her pace and leisurely took her seat. Her deskmate sighed with admiration. "You're really something. It's great to be a beauty. Xia Xinshu personally escorted you back. After 3 years of high school, I've never heard of him being close to any girl." Gu Sisi raised her chin and pretended to be humble, saying, "Not at all. Xinshu is just a good person. He thinks I'm too naive and is afraid I might get bullied, so he takes extra care of me." As soon as these words were spoken, the others chimed in resentfully. "It's only because you're pretty. If one of us got hurt, would any handsome guy come to help?" But one girl still muttered discontentedly, "What's the big deal? It's not like she's that badly hurt. She's just pretending to gain sympathy." I just happened to turn to the next page and smiled at the remark. We're all adults now, who can't tell right from wrong, truth from falsehood, but in the face of absolute favoritism, the truth often doesn't matter. Xia Xinshu stood outside the door but didn't leave immediately, until a few boys arrived, panting and carrying a large box of Häagen-Dazs. "It's very hot today, and everyone is under a lot of academic pressure. I'd like to treat everyone to some ice cream." Amidst a wave of excited screams, Xia Xinshu walked in, stood on the podium, and said with a bright smile, "Sisi is quite introverted and kind-hearted. Even when she's bullied, she doesn't dare speak up. I hope everyone will take good care of her in the future." The students each had a box of ice cream and were practically drooling, so they naturally agreed without hesitation. As they ate, they couldn't help but sigh about how fortunate Gu Sisi was. What's the point of living like us? She's beautiful and was born to be the main character. She's the perfect female lead in a youth campus story. Only someone like Sisi deserves such an amazing guy. Xia Xinshu heard it, a faint smile gracing his lips as he deliberately emphasized, "Of course, not everyone gets ice cream this time. Someone who's selfish and jealous shouldn't even think about it." Everyone turned to look at me. My desk was empty, with only a simple exercise book on it. The room erupted in piercing laughter. "Haha, these days, pretty girls get to date handsome guys, while the ugly ones can only fantasize over their textbooks." I didn't pay any attention, instead turning to look out the window. At that time, the cicadas were chirping noisily, and the green of youth surged wildly in the midsummer heat. Countless hidden and burgeoning feelings of love were growing, but at this age, not everyone needs to pluck the ripe fruit of love early on. There are many things more important than love, such as one's future. 9. From that day on, Gu Sisi focused her efforts on how to completely win over Xia Xinshu and prepare for the school anniversary gala. She firmly believed that she would soon be able to exchange for everything I had left. As a result, she became even more proactive in borrowing things from me for various reasons, but she failed to notice that what I gave her was becoming increasingly strange: dog hair clips, oddly shaped sweaters, slightly strange sanitary pads. There was even a time when I didn't even bother pretending and directly gave her a bag of pet biscuits, and without a second thought, she ate them all up. Visibly, my skin became fairer, and my facial features grew more refined and defined, but to prevent Gu Sisi from noticing, I deliberately put on makeup every day to make myself look ugly and wore a mask under the pretext of having a cold. And she gradually stopped focusing her energy on me, spending all her free time looking for Xia Xinshu. During the evening self-study session that day, surprisingly, no one was whispering to each other. Instead, everyone pretended to be studying seriously. It was all because the results of last week's joint exam were about to be released. The questions this time were extremely difficult, and everyone felt they were doomed. Suddenly, Gu Sisi, who was late, entered the room wearing a mask. "Oh my god, the latest LV bag, my favorite influencer just bought it." A girl near the door spotted it immediately and exclaimed. Everyone instantly looked up, their eyes filled with disbelief. You know, as a financially disadvantaged student, Gu Sisi used to have a backpack with patches on it. "Oh, this bag is only 38,000, it's nothing," Gu Sisi said with a sweet smile. "Xiansu bought it for me. He's always been very generous. Every time he takes me out to eat, it's at a 5-star restaurant. And a single meal costs nearly 10,000 yuan. Oh, and by the way, Xiansu also said that if I like bags, he can take me to buy Hermes." It turns out his family owns an entire street in the city center. Gu Sisi was fully expecting to become the envy of the entire class once again, but this time, the students' curiosity for gossip didn't flare up. Everyone was still more concerned about their own survival. "It's just grades. I could get first place with my eyes closed." Gu Sisi snorted disdainfully, then returned to her seat and lay down to sleep, still using my dog cushion. At the same time, I quietly took a mirror out of my backpack, removed the mask. The skin was smooth and flawless, so fair it almost seemed to glow. The eyes were clear and bright, the eyelashes thick, the nose bridge high and straight, and the lips naturally rosy without a trace of makeup. Her beauty is even more stunning than before. My face has completely returned. Which means Gu life swapping system has completely failed. In that case, the person behind the mask right now, and the results she is about to announce, well, you can imagine. 10. After class, I took my water bottle and went to fill it up. Unexpectedly, I ran into Xia Xinshu while passing by a staircase entrance. I didn't stop and continued walking, but Xia Xinshu directly blocked my way. Congratulations on ranking first in the grade this time. Jumping from the bottom to this position, did you really achieve it on your own, first in the grade? I felt a surge of joy in my heart. Ever since the system took effect, I had been stuck in failure for too long, but now I was finally back on track, especially since it was said that this exam was related to the evaluation of outstanding students, which could earn extra points for the college entrance exam. Of course, I did it on my own. I dropped this sentence and was about to leave. But Xia Xinshu stepped in front of me first. I ran straight into his chest unexpectedly, and my mask almost fell off. The boy was also taken aback. He abruptly moved away, his expression turning even more unpleasant. Lu Qingya, what exactly did you do to swap your grades with Cece's? She was always first in previous years, so why are your rankings reversed this time? I checked the surveillance footage and found nothing unusual. What method did you actually use, under the dim corridor lights? The boy frowned deeply, and I suddenly laughed. Xia Xinshu, there are far more things beyond your expectations. For instance, are you so sure you found the right person? I raised my head, and our eyes met. He looked at me, his pupils slightly dilated, a flicker of astonishment passing through his gaze. Your eyes? I only then snapped back to reality, quickly hugged the cup tightly, and ran towards the classroom. 11. By the time I returned to the classroom, the news that I had scored first in the grade had already spread like wildfire, and everyone was looking at me with utter astonishment. However, Gu Cece's seat was completely empty. Not only that, but starting from this class, she never returned to the classroom for several days in a row. Friday arrived, and with it came the school anniversary gala. I specifically hired a high-end makeup artist from outside to design a look tailored just for me, while getting my makeup done in the private room. I suddenly heard Xia Xinshu's voice on the phone outside the door. Cece, why haven't you arrived yet? The makeup artist I hired for you is already here, and the dress is the one you said you wanted before. If there's anything you're not satisfied with, just say the word, and I'll have them change it immediately. Could you please come out and meet me? The boy's voice carried a hint of humble pleading. It's been a long time since you've been willing to see me or even come to school. Can you tell me the reason? Is it because you're avoiding me or something else? If there's a problem, just tell me, and I'll definitely fix it. Just don't ignore me. Hey. When I finished my makeup and stepped out, he happened to be frantically dialing his phone with his back turned to me, so even the campus heartthrob can be this pitiful in love. Serves him right. I lifted my dress and got into my family's Rolls Royce, as dusk fell. The moment I stepped out of the car, the passers-by around me were all stunned. Is this a celebrity host invited by the school? Oh my, she's so ethereal and beautiful. She looks like a movie star. Wait, the school never mentioned hiring outside help. Could she actually be a student from our school? What are you thinking? If there were such a beautiful girl here, wouldn't I know about it? She's absolutely goddess-like. Even though everyone was dressed up today, I still became the center of attention in the crowd. I made my way to the school auditorium just in time to hear the host announce my performance. I quickly stepped onto the stage, and in an instant, all the lights in the venue focused on me, with my enlarged face appearing on the big screen. At that moment, the entire audience fell silent, and someone backstage screamed. The boy next to Xia Xinshu saw me, his mouth hanging open wide enough to fit an egg. He frantically poked Xia Xinshu. Holy crap, look, is that Lu Qingya? Are you sure it's not someone with the same name? How did she end up looking like that? I can't be bothered to look at someone so hard on the eyes. Xia Xinshu stared impatiently at his phone screen, not even bothering to look up, until I stood on the stage. The music started, and I sang the first line. Xia Xinshu's phone suddenly fell to the ground. Cece, he looked up in surprise, and at the moment he saw the big screen, his pupils trembled, in the dark, packed audience. He stood up recklessly without a second thought. 12. After I finished singing a song, the audience snapped out of their immersion and erupted with heart-wrenching cheers and screams. Lu Qingya, you're my goddess. I love you, Mom. I'm in love. I'm going to turn gay. She's so beautiful and sings so well. It's so beautiful, absolutely stunning. Debut right now. I'm not watching the rest of the show. Lu Qingya, sing another song. Goddess. Don't go. Give me your autograph. When I walked to the class area, all my classmates looked at me with shocked expressions. All eyes were glued to me. Are you, Lu Qingya? I nodded. Can't you tell by my voice? The boy who spoke immediately blushed and stammered. Sorry, I didn't recognize you. You're just too beautiful. I smiled and said, it's nothing. I was taking medication with hormones for an illness before, so my skin didn't look too good. I started wearing a mask recently because I was undergoing treatment, and now it's finally cured. The boy stood facing me, his face completely flushed. The other boys immediately pushed him aside and rushed to my side, eagerly inviting me to the dance. Lu, classmate, I just realized that Xia Xinshu had appeared behind me at some point, his chest heaving violently, his eyes shining with an alarming intensity as he looked at me. Classmate Lu, I have a question for you. Did you once record a video titled Blue Lotus and upload it online? At the time, you were wearing a light blue dress, standing in front of a full-length mirror. I looked at him with a gaze full of contempt and nodded. So it was you. He excitedly grabbed his hair, too nervous to look at me, his voice trembling. I'm sorry, I mistook you for someone else. I actually got it wrong. I was wondering why something fell off. I apologize for my earlier rash behavior, but why didn't you explain it at the time? I looked at him with a forced smile. Most people only believe what they see. In that situation, even if I had defended myself, would you really have believed me? Xia Xinshu's face instantly flushed from his neck to the tips of his ears. He lowered his head, not daring to look at me. Lu, your performance just now was amazing. The most perfect rendition I've ever seen. I'd like to invite you to dance. Before the boy could finish his sentence, a sharp, piercing scream suddenly came from the side. Lu Qingya. You bitch, what have you done to me? You ruined me, you did it on purpose. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you today. I saw Gu Sisi wearing a mask and a hat, looking like a demon, as she charged straight at me, trying to claw at my face. Just as she was about to step on my skirt, several boys quickly grabbed her. She fell heavily to the ground, her mask and hat falling off. Ugh, I'm going to be sick. The first boy who saw her face suddenly let go and started retching. The others quickly gathered around to look. When Gu Sisi was forced to lift her head, everyone felt their throats tighten. Her face was covered in long yellow hair, her eyes had become very small, her nostrils were flared, and her teeth were uneven, making her look particularly terrifying. Help! A ghost. 13. I'm not a ghost, you're the ghost, Gu Sisi shouted fiercely, then frantically ran to Xia Xinshu and pleaded, Xinshu, I was harmed and ended up like this. I beg you, please don't leave me, okay? I wasn't avoiding you recently, I was trying to treat my face, just give me some time, please. You can't walk with Lu Qingya, she's just a bitch. You said you would only like me, have you forgotten that you said I was the one you've been looking for all along? However, the boy looked at her with disgust, clearly understanding everything. If I'm not mistaken, the person who kept sending me private messages and harassing me with different accounts was actually you, wasn't it? Could it be that you had plastic surgery to look like that before, and now you're experiencing side effects? I'm not, it's all that bitch's fault, she's the one who did this to me, in front of everyone. Gu Sisi actually vomited a mouthful of blood, the students screamed, and amidst the chaos, she rushed toward me like a madwoman and slapped me hard across the face. I didn't dodge, but instead sneered coldly and grabbed her wrist. Qingya, be careful, seeing Xia Sinu anxious to rush over and save me. I called out to stop him. Don't worry about me, just call the police directly, because at this moment, even if Gu Sisi used all her strength, her blows felt as light as cotton when they landed on me. By the way, call an ambulance too, I said leisurely. I feel like Gu Sisi might not have much time left. As soon as I said this, Gu Sisi seemed to suddenly realize something. She looked at me in disbelief, her eyes filled with red veins, and she collapsed limply to the ground. Just as she was about to hit the floor, I caught her steadily. You want to know why you've become like this, don't you? Then I'll tell you. I leaned close to her ear and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear. That is because I have long known the secret of your system. From the day I awakened, everything you took from me was actually my dog's belongings. I should even thank you for using your own lifespan in exchange for it being able to stay with me for several more decades. She listened in despair, her trembling gradually subsiding, tears welling up from the corners of her eyes. You actually knew all along. Gu Sisi finally widened her eyes and lay on the ground, lifeless. The school anniversary gala was ultimately forced to end because of a death. According to the forensic examination, Gu Sisi's organs had prematurely deteriorated, and her death was unrelated to anyone. 14. In the following period, I went about my routine of attending classes and leaving them as usual. I did not slack off because of the popularity and titles that the gala had bestowed upon me. I deeply understand that life is a vast wilderness, and the attention or comments of others do not constitute any part of my life. My life is only in my own hands, and self-discipline and striving upward are the main themes of life. In my final year of high school, I must seize every second to study, adding as much weight as possible to my life. And Xiaxinshi was also greatly shaken after witnessing Gu Cixi's death. He never bothered me again and became much more withdrawn and silent. Later, we both faced the college entrance exam. He performed as expected and was admitted to his dream art school. As for me, I also got into F University as I wished and studied the major I had always wanted. During my time in university, I often received postcards from Beijing. At the end of the letter, there is always a line that says, "I'm sorry." Hoping for the best. I know who sent it, and I've also learned through various news sources that he is doing better and better. In the entertainment industry, he has already made a name for himself with a youth campus idol drama, gaining countless fans. He has repeatedly expressed that I am the most beautiful memory of his student days, and that my songs accompanied him through countless difficult times. In his most recent letter, he said that while filming that campus drama, he couldn't help but think of me. He thanked me for being the most beautiful part of his student days, letting him know that there is such a well-rounded and outstanding girl in the world. But I haven't replied to a single letter. Our youth has just begun. The past has long since vanished like dust and smoke. He has his shining starlight, and I have my own brilliant life. The present is good, and the future will be even better. That's the end of the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. When the year-end bonuses were distributed, I announced that everyone's bonus would be doubled this year. Unexpectedly, the employee group chat immediately exploded with endless voices cursing me, thinking everyone thought it was too little. I immediately announced that the bonus would be increased tenfold. To my surprise, the employees became even more furious this time, with some even smashing my office directly. After learning about it, I was stunned and simply gritted my teeth, increasing it 100-fold. But as soon as I stepped into the company the next day, the employees rushed at me angrily and beat me to death without even giving me a chance to explain. I didn't understand why until the moment I died. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn on the day the year-end bonuses were being distributed. Looking at the notification I had just edited in the message box about doubling the bonuses, I shuddered and quickly deleted it all, recalling how I died miserably at the company in my previous life just because I doubled the year-end bonuses. I couldn't help but feel full of confusion. To be honest, I treated the company employees quite well. Not only did they receive all the benefits and compensation they deserved, but they also worked 4 days a week with 3 days off, and there was never any overtime. Moreover, I specifically set up a suggestion box where employees could write down any opinions they had, and I would promptly take them into consideration and make improvements. In fact, the employees even voluntarily applied for the city's 5-star Good Boss honorary certificate on my behalf, which is now hanging in my office. Just as I was deep in thought, my boyfriend Gu Tinji pushed the door open and walked in, smiling gently at me. "Cici, everyone has been asking me to find out how this year's year-end bonus will be distributed. Have you decided yet?" I was taken aback. In my previous life, my boyfriend was also beaten to death trying to protect me. It concerns both our lives, so I must make this decision carefully this time. After a moment of thought, I tentatively asked, "What is everyone's opinion? I want to hear from all of you." Gu Tinji shook his head and gave a helpless smile. "I knew you would ask that, so I already looked into it for you, but everyone says they'll follow your lead." Seeing the ball being passed back to me, I felt a bit helpless. After weighing the pros and cons briefly, I gently tapped the table. "How about we stick to last year's standards for the distribution, respond to change by remaining unchanged? Isn't that always the safest approach?" "That could work too," Gu Tinji nodded. "But this year's business has increased quite a bit. If the bonus remains the same, wouldn't everyone?" My heart tightened, and I quickly corrected myself. "Then, in addition to the bonus, let's give everyone an extra 30,000 in shopping cards." Last time, the issue arose because of the bonus stacking. This time, I'm switching to physical goods, so it shouldn't cause any problems, right? Gu Tinji also expressed agreement and immediately posted the notice in the group chat. I, on the other hand, anxiously awaited the employees' reactions. Fortunately, the first response was a big thumbs up. The replies that followed were also positive, and then they kept coming in. I breathed a sigh of relief. I had managed to dodge this bullet, but just as I was about to attend to other matters, Gu Tinji suddenly turned pale. "Cici, quickly check the messages in the group chat." My heart tightened, and I opened the chat box again, only to see text messages popping up one after another. "This year, all of us have achieved double the performance compared to last year, and Manager Lin actually gave us an extra 30,000 yuan in shopping cards. That's just amazing. Company and next door only achieved less than half of our performance, yet their year-end benefits are twice as much as ours. Manager Lin is indeed generous." When did Manager Lin become so generous? Everyone was clearly being sarcastic. I broke out in a cold sweat while watching, and suddenly felt something was off. I know the welfare situation at Company A. Their year-end benefits at most don't exceed 20,000 yuan. Meanwhile, our standard year-end bonus alone is 40,000, not to mention the additional 30,000 in shopping cards. No matter how you calculate it, the numbers just don't add up with what they described. I was still pondering when Gutinji couldn't hold back any longer, looking panicked. Cece, it's clear that everyone isn't buying it. We need to come up with a new plan quickly. I gritted my teeth. Since shopping cards weren't working either, we had to try something else. I asked Gutinji to edit a new notification. In addition to the above benefits, each person will be rewarded with the latest top-of-the-line Apple phone and a tablet. After the message was sent, the group suddenly fell silent, but I remained on edge, afraid that something else might go wrong. Even after more than half an hour had passed, there was still no movement in the group. Gutinji was the first to relax, forcing a faint smile. It seems everyone is satisfied now, but they're too embarrassed to switch attitudes immediately, so no one is speaking up anymore. I also breathed a sigh of relief and was about to put down my phone when unexpectedly a few messages popped up. From Manager Shinshin, Manager Lin, I've muted all of them. These people are just too much. How could they insult you like that over a few benefits? Don't worry, I will educate them later. I guarantee this kind of thing won't happen again. A few flattering emojis were attached afterward, clearly thinking they had accomplished something great. My brain immediately exploded, and I replied with a voice message at lightning speed. Who told you to mute them? Unmute them right now. Within 3 seconds, one more second of delay, and don't bother coming to work tomorrow. Not even 2 seconds after I sent the voice message, the group chat exploded, and every single comment was directed at me. Boss Lin sure has some clever tactics. Not only did she cut our benefits layer by layer, but now she's trying to silence us. It seems her previous image as a good boss was all an act. Now her true colors are finally showing. Why waste words with such a heartless capitalist? Just report her to the labor bureau and make sure she pays until she's bankrupt. Reading these messages, I was completely thrown into chaos. I've given away everything I could, and the benefits I've provided far exceed those of any previous year. I don't understand why they're becoming increasingly dissatisfied, even to the point of hurling insults at me. Gutinji, standing nearby, was also as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, repeatedly muttering about what to do. In the end, he simply suggested that I try offering several times the usual bonus. I naturally rejected this suggestion outright. After a brief moment of thought, I finally made a decision. I will have a face-to-face conversation with everyone to see what they truly want, but when I voiced my thoughts in front of everyone, they all fell silent. This puzzled me even more. If you're all dissatisfied with my year-end bonus proposal, then speak up with your ideas so I can improve it. Unexpectedly, an employee named Zhou Yingying sneered and spoke up. President Lin, you know all these things perfectly well. Why pretend in front of us? If you want to exploit us, just say it directly. There's no need to beat around the bush like this. You're tired, and we're even more exhausted. Another employee named Huang Jingjing also sneered and said, exactly. I originally thought you, Lin Cece, were a great philanthropist, but it turns out you were setting a trap for us to step into. I've seen shameless bosses, but never one as shameless as you. Ugh. Immediately, others started chiming in, all of them furious with me. After being inexplicably scolded for so long, even I, with my usually calm temper, couldn't hold back anymore. You weren't satisfied with the bonuses, so I kept increasing them. The benefits and compensation you're getting now far exceed those at any other company in the industry. Even if you're still not satisfied, you can just tell me your demands directly, and I'll do as you wish, but you're not saying anything at all. Just relentlessly cursing me here. How can that solve the problem? I thought that this time someone would finally tell the truth, but unexpectedly, everyone just stared at me with cold smiles, not saying a word. I felt a chill down my spine under their gaze, and recalling the scene from my previous life where these very faces beat me to death, I quickly turned around and left. At that moment, a few mocking voices sounded from behind. Look, she's clearly guilty, otherwise, why would she run away? She pretended to be so innocent just now. I almost believed her. This was followed by insults directed at me that were too vulgar to bear. Back in the office, I leaned back in my recliner and stared blankly at the ceiling. I've done everything I can, but I still can't figure out why everyone is upset about the bonuses I distributed. If this continues, I really don't know what to do. Just then, my phone rang. It was Gutinji calling. Cece, I've been thinking it over, and I believe everyone must still feel the bonus was too small, but last time I suggested increasing it, you rejected the idea. I know you're concerned about the company's finances. In that case, I'm willing to cover this expense personally. I've already sent out a notice on your behalf. Everyone's bonus will be increased tenfold. My mind instantly exploded, and I roared hoarsely, Gutinji, you need to withdraw immediately. Unfortunately, it was too late. Suddenly, A wave of insults erupted from outside the office, quickly growing louder and closer. The next second, the office glass was shattered to pieces, and the doorframe was kicked with loud, violent bangs. I quickly hid inside the pre-prepared hiding cabinet, tightly covering my mouth, not daring to make a sound. The smashing and banging outside the door continued for another 10 minutes or so before gradually subsiding. Only after confirming it was safe did I crawl out, looking at the mess all over the floor. A chill ran down my spine, although, based on my past life, the tenfold bonus probably wouldn't cost me my life. If I were caught, I'd surely suffer. I dialed Gutinji's number, feeling utterly exasperated with this troublemaker. Gutinji, from now on, you are not allowed to make any decisions on your own. Do you hear me? Gutinji on the other end was clearly confused, but after I gave him another stern warning, he obediently agreed. Shinshin quickly called me and said that the office vandalism was done by a few male employees who were emotionally charged, and most people were not involved. Moreover, the matter had already been resolved. I finally breathed a sigh of relief and then asked her to help convey a notice for a company-wide meeting. I then dialed the bank manager's phone, demanding that 10 million in cash be delivered immediately, along with armed guards for escort, in the conference room. Everyone stared in shock at the small mountain of cash piled behind me and the row of armed guards. Gutinji and Shinshin were also completely baffled, unsure of what trick I had up my sleeve. Sweeping my gaze over everyone, I cleared my throat and said in a deep voice, considering how hard everyone has worked this year, I've decided to increase this year's year-end bonus by 100 times, and it will be distributed immediately. The next second, the entire room erupted in an uproar. Almost all the employees looked furious, staring at me intently, and many even radiated killing intent. If it weren't for the armed bodyguards behind me, they would undoubtedly have rushed forward and beaten me to death on the spot. Although no one dared to take action, a torrent of insults came crashing down on me. Lin Cece, we worked so hard to help you grow the company and make it strong, even if we don't deserve credit. We at least put in the effort, and now you want to drive us to the brink. Are you even human, Lin? If you push my family to their deaths, I swear I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Lin Cece, I'm going to fight you to the death. Several employees could no longer hold back and actually grabbed stools, charging at me with a ferocity that seemed intent on smashing me to pieces. Fortunately, they were all restrained by the bodyguards, although the others didn't dare to take action again. They glared at me as if I were their mortal enemy, their venomous stares sending chills down my spine. I steadied myself and continued, I don't mean to pressure anyone today, I just want to know why everyone is so resistant when receiving a bonus is clearly a good thing. Just tell me what you want, and whatever it is, I'll agree to it. I swear on the lives of my entire family. Hearing me make such a severe oath, some of them froze for a moment, then showed hesitation on their faces. Seeing this, I immediately added fuel to the fire. Just speak your mind boldly, I will take full responsibility for any consequences, and I mean what I say. At that moment, the leader, Zhou Yingying, finally stepped forward, glaring at me with a face full of resentment. Since you've said so, let me tell you. She quickly opened her tablet and played a video. The moment I saw the image, my entire body jolted violently. What Zhou Yingying had opened turned out to be a jump scare video, though it lasted only a few seconds. It still scared me half to death. After calming down, I looked at Zhou Yingying with a grim expression. Aren't you going to tell me the truth? What does this mean? Seeing my reaction, Zhou Yingying froze for a moment, then turned the screen to check. The next second, she was so frightened that she screamed and jumped on the spot. I was even more baffled by this, until Zhou Yingying calmed down. She glared fiercely at the people around her, who swapped my video. The others looked at each other and shook their heads. Zhou Yingying's face immediately darkened. Damn it, someone swapped my video, but I never expected her to look at me the next second. Her eyes filled with suspicion. Lin Cece, was it you who did this? You're so cunning, pretending to be as pure as a white lotus while secretly destroying the evidence yourself. I'm even more speechless now. Please, I don't even know what video you're talking about. What would I destroy? Besides, you're the programmer in our company. Do you really think a computer illiterate like me could secretly crack your login password? Unexpectedly, Zhou Yingying sneered coldly, although what you said makes some sense, but the timing of this video disappearing is just too coincidental. It was still there this morning, and then it just flew away over the course of one noon. Hearing her say this, the employee who had just started to let their guard down around me was now staring at me as if facing a formidable enemy. I rubbed my throbbing forehead, not wanting to argue with her any further. First, I can swear on my conscience that I absolutely did not touch the so-called video you mentioned, and since so many of you know about it, is it possible that no one has a backup of the video? Huang Jingjing, who was standing nearby, shook her head. That video was specially configured and cannot be backed up or copied, so there is only this one copy from Zhou Ying. It's clear the killer knew this too, so they precisely targeted Zhou Ying's computer. After saying this, her eyes glanced toward me, the implication obvious. Seeing the other suspicion of me growing stronger, I had no choice but to change the subject. Even if the video is gone, you've all already seen it. Why not just tell us what it contained, unexpectedly? Zhou Ying sneered coldly. If I could explain it clearly just by talking, why would I bother bringing my computer? But there's one thing I can tell you, everything in that video is about you, and it's closely related to all of our interests. I'm a bit speechless. What's the difference between saying this and not saying anything at all? Just as I was about to fall into another awkward standoff, Gu Tinji quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Everyone, as far as I know, there's no such thing as a permanently deleted video. We can find experts to recover the video based on data traces, right? Won't the truth come out then? After a brief silence, Zhou Ying and the others nodded in agreement to first contact experts to retrieve the video. However, before the meeting adjourned, Zhou Ying left me with a few important words. From now on, don't promise us any additional bonuses or benefits, because every time you give us more benefits, we end up having to hand over corresponding wealth. On the contrary, if you withhold our wages and benefits, we would actually end up with more money. Hearing this, I was stunned. It sounded like a fantasy. That was the first thought that crossed my mind, but Zhou Ying didn't explain more to me and directly led the people away. Back in the office, I kept thinking about Zhou Ying's words and connecting them with the previous events. Suddenly, a flash of insight struck me. No wonder they were so angry about me distributing bonuses. According to what Zhou Ying said, for every extra benefit I distributed, they had to hand over a corresponding amount of money. What I see as giving benefits is, to them, undoubtedly accumulating debt, especially in my previous life. When I multiplied the bonuses by 100-fold, it was as if the employees were saddled with millions in debt. This was enough to bankrupt them and tear their families apart. No wonder they gathered in anger and beat me to death. But then a new question arises: where did this rule come from, and what is forcing everyone to comply with such an absurd requirement? The video Zhou Ying mentioned might just be the answer. I rubbed my head and thought about how unlucky I had been in my previous life. Who would have thought that such an absurd rule would ultimately lead to my death in such an unclear and unjust way? At that moment, Gu Tinji pushed the door open and walked in. Cece, as you suggested, we have temporarily changed the bonus accumulation system to a deduction system, and everyone is quite satisfied with it now. But as for the specific reasons, no matter how much I ask, they still refuse to reveal anything. I nodded. It seems the final truth can only be uncovered once the video is recovered. Fortunately, the company's current situation has finally stabilized, and I won't repeat the mistakes of my past life. Gu Tinji, seeing my expression relax considerably, couldn't help but tease. Before, you always seemed burdened with worries, but now you look much more at ease. How about I take you out in a couple of days to unwind and relax? I stared into his eyes, couldn't help but recall how he protected me with his life in our previous existence, and nodded with a light laugh. Having a man who would protect me with his life makes this lifetime worthwhile. Let the regrets of the previous life be fulfilled in this one. Gu Tinji was about to turn and leave when I called out to him, meeting his puzzled gaze. A smile curled at the corner of my lips. Tinji, let's get engaged this October. Gu Tinji was taken aback for a moment, then scratched his head. Isn't this a bit sudden? Besides, I haven't even asked my parents for their opinion yet. The smile on my lips froze. In my previous life, before the incident happened, Gu Tinji had clearly told me that his parents had already agreed. From a timeline perspective, Gu Tinji's parents should have agreed by now. That leaves only one possibility: Gu Tinji of 2 lifetimes, in one of them, told a lie. However, I didn't say it directly but brushed it off with a laugh and let Gu Tinji leave. After Gu Tinji left, the smile on my face instantly faded, replaced by a look of seriousness. In my memories of the previous life, Gu Tinji never told lies, so what exactly is he hiding? At that moment, my phone rang. It was Shin calling. Mr. Lin, something terrible has happened. The laptop that Zhou Ying sent over has been stolen. We've already reported it to the police, but they said there are no surveillance cameras nearby, so the chances of recovering it are very slim. My mind buzzed with a sudden ringing. The video was deleted just in time, and when we tried to retrieve it, the computer was stolen. Everything that happened was just too much of a coincidence. Countless clues rapidly converged in my mind, gradually forming a clear main thread. My eyes suddenly lit up. I cleared my throat and said, "Does anyone else know about this besides you?" Shinshinshin on the other end firmly stated that there was not. "That's good. Remember, don't disclose this matter to anyone for now. Leave it entirely to me to handle," I calmly instructed. Shinshinshin on the other end immediately agreed and then hung up the phone. I then immediately dialed Gu Tinji's number. "Please convey this, at 3 p.m. I will hold an all-hands meeting, and everyone must attend," after giving the instructions. I leaned back in the recliner, closed my eyes, and let out a long sigh. The meeting started right on time, with everyone present as expected. I sat at the center of the conference table, scanning everyone with my gaze, and said in a deep voice, "I called this meeting today to announce something important regarding your year-end bonuses." Hearing this, everyone perked up, looking at me with tense expressions. I paused for a moment and then slowly said, "First, I announce the restoration of the bonus reward system, and it will be implemented accordingly from now on." Sure enough, as soon as I finished speaking, someone immediately became restless, a faint trace of anger appearing on their face. I raised my hand to signal for quiet and continued. "The second and most important matter is that the issue you were concerned about has been resolved. Therefore, you no longer need to follow that absurd rule." The employees were instantly taken aback. Zhou Yingying looked at me with an even more doubtful expression. "President Lin, the video hasn't been recovered yet. How can you be so certain?" Others quickly chimed in as well. "Yes, to lift that rule, we must find the original video. Without seeing the original video, it's hard for us to believe anything you say." I raised my hand to signal for them to quiet down, then smiled slightly. "The reason I dare to say this is because I've already found and handled the video. I can guarantee it with my hand on my heart." Seeing how confident I was, Zhou Yingying immediately showed a hint of anticipation. "President Lin, are you serious?" I nodded. "I have always kept my word. If I break my promise, all my shares in the company can be distributed among everyone." As soon as I finished speaking, the room erupted in enthusiastic cheers. Every employee's face was beaming with excitement, but just at this joyful moment, a discordant voice suddenly rang out, "President Lin, you really don't even blink when you lie." The atmosphere in the room instantly froze. I looked up and saw that it was Shinshinshin who had spoken. At that moment, there was not a trace of the respect she once had for me, only a face full of mockery. The computer was already lost. Even the police couldn't find it. "I really don't know where you got the video from, President Lin, to lie in front of so many people." "President Lin, you really have some nerve." Shinshinshin's words instantly ignited the emotions of the employees present. "What? The computer was actually lost? When did this happen? How come I didn't know about it? Such a major event. Why didn't anyone inform us? What are they trying to hide?" Listening to the shocked and doubtful discussions around her, Shinshinshin smiled triumphantly. What a coincidence. Everyone, the one who ordered the news to be concealed was none other than President Lin. Her words completely ignited the already restless emotions of the employees. "What, President Lin, why are you doing this? What exactly are you trying to hide from everyone?" "President Lin, you just kept saying that the video issue had been resolved, but now even the computer is missing. So how did you manage to find the video, President Lin? You must give us an explanation." In an instant, countless piercing gazes instantly enveloped me. I glanced at everyone one by one and smiled slightly. "Manager Shin is telling the truth." Whoosh! As soon as I finished speaking, the room instantly erupted. All the employees looked at me with anger on their faces. "President Lin, you've gone too far. How could you tell such a huge lie to us? Do you even know that your actions could ruin our families and lives? And to think we trusted you, we never expected you to." Just as everyone was angrily denouncing me, I raised my hand to signal for calm and then said leisurely, "I said Manager Shin is right, but that doesn't mean what I said is false." Upon hearing this, Shinshinshin immediately burst into wild laughter. "President Lin, do you even know what you're saying? You admit that the computer was lost is true, and you also say that you handled the video is true. Could it be that you handled the video out of thin air? Please don't treat everyone like fools, okay?" Hearing Shinshinshin's words, the expressions of everyone present darkened even more, and the anger in their eyes towards me intensified. I stared at Shinshinshin and suddenly laughed. "Manager Shin, I'm not treating everyone as fools. The one who's really treating everyone as fools is you. Do you think what you've been doing behind the scenes won't be discovered? The so-called missing computer was just a show you orchestrated yourself, wasn't it?" As soon as I finished speaking, the room erupted in an uproar. Everyone looked at Shinshinshin in astonishment, their eyes filled with shock. The smile on Shinshinshin's lips instantly froze. "President Lin, what are you talking about? I don't understand." I chuckled. "You don't understand, do you? Then I'll mention another person, and you'll get it." I suddenly turned my head and looked at Gu Tinji beside me. "Gu Tinji." Now it's your turn to perform, isn't it? The scene fell into complete silence. Everyone was too shocked by the sudden turn of events to speak. The direction of the situation had completely exceeded their understanding. Compared to Shinshinshin, Gu Tinji appeared much calmer. He slowly stood up, his eyes no longer holding the innocence of the past, a faint smile curling at the corner of his lips. Cece, I never expected you to be so clever, to even think of this. I'm just a bit curious. How did you see through me? I stared at him, my gaze filled with numbness, heartache, and resolve. From the moment you hesitated about my engagement decision, of course, the earliest possibility might date back to the previous life. You and Shinshinshin had already gotten together, hadn't you? Gu Tinji's eyes flickered with a trace of doubt, but it quickly vanished. He then firmly grasped Shinshinshin's hand and said with a light smile, "You're right, we've been together for a long time." At this moment, every employee's mouth was wide open, almost big enough to fit an egg. The sheer volume of information had almost overwhelmed their ability to think. I, however, remained unfazed, simply gazing out the window into the distance. You two wanted to short my company, so you secretly developed an online video software under a hidden identity on the internet, and deliberately guided every employee of the company to go in and sign the agreement. That so-called agreement contained absurd rules about bonuses that everyone found unacceptable. It also included a confidentiality clause, prohibiting anyone from disclosing it. As for the video that everyone has been eagerly anticipating, it was precisely the key tool you used to lure them into signing the agreement. You deliberately led everyone to believe that this was a trap I had intentionally set, thereby amplifying their resentment toward me. So one day I will be attacked by everyone and eventually have to transfer the company under your name, and the two of you can achieve your goal, am I right? Clap, clap, clap. Gu Tinji smiled and clapped his hands. Cece, you are indeed clever, and your words are spot on. It's just a pity that you are only revealing this now. It seems a bit too late. He triumphantly produced an agreement. I have already secretly contacted everyone to sign, and they all agree to remove you from the position of general manager. According to the company's founding agreement, you are no longer qualified to continue as general manager. I am the new general manager now. I stared at the agreement, then looked at the others. The employees present all lowered their heads in shame. It was Zhou Yingying who mustered the courage to say, "Mr. Lin, we all thought it was you. And with Manager Shin's instigation, she then gritted her teeth, her voice trembling with a hint of tears. Mr. Lin, it's all our fault, we've let you down." I shook my head gently, turned to look at the smug Gu Tinji and Shinshinshin, and curled the corner of my mouth. You two seem to be celebrating a bit too early, don't you think? What if I told you I've already submitted evidence to the relevant authorities and applied for judicial protection of the company's authority in advance? Their smiles instantly froze. Gu Tinji also lost his earlier composure, staring at me intently and saying, "What did you say? This can't be, absolutely impossible." I couldn't be bothered to argue with him any further and simply pressed the send button. The next second, a group of uniformed personnel rushed in, firmly restraining Gu Tinji and Shinshinshin. The man at the front flashed his badge and said in a deep voice, "Gu Tinji, Shinshinshin, based on reports and our investigation and verification, it has been confirmed that both of you have committed serious offenses related to information crimes. Now, please come with us to assist in the investigation." The moment she saw the law enforcement officers take out the handcuffs, Shinshinshin's legs gave way, and she immediately collapsed to the ground. Gu Tinji also leaned weakly against the wall and closed his eyes in resignation, before being taken away. Gu Tinji gave me one last deep look, his gaze complex. I didn't even glance back at him. The moment I realized that my death in my previous life was actually his scheme, I had no feelings left for him. As the two were taken away, the matter came to an end. The company quickly returned to its normal operations and continued to thrive. When I heard the news about Gu Tinji again, he had already been sentenced to 10 years in prison. As for Shinshinshin, she was sentenced to 6 years. However, I have long been indifferent to this. Not long after I chose to resign and embarked on the long-awaited journey I had been dreaming of. It was supposed to be a sweet trip for two, but now it has turned into my solo journey. But what does that matter to me? As long as one is happy, being alone is enough. The future holds endless possibilities. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.